Real Estate Matters would not even be possible without our partner Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today, helping real estate broker owners offset and manage those risks today. Here he is, John Bramblett with Stewart Insurance. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Always a pleasure to be here.
Once again, you always bring forth a tremendous topic or something to talk about. What is it today?
Well, today, Bill, I think we're going to start a series. And what the series is going to be is covering the different aspects of business insurance that a real estate broker ought to consider. And we're going to begin with errors and omissions.
That's a great idea, by the way. Here, so let the series begin.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. E&O, in a sense, for a business owner is like malpractice insurance for a doctor. So it provides you coverage in case you've made a mistake or a member of your staff made a mistake or somebody thinks you made a mistake. And I think that's a critical aspect is in today's litigious society. I hope that word will fit with what our fellow guests have thrown out there.
Many syllables.
Many syllables, not quite as strong, but it should work.
I like that
litigious
word.
society. That if people feel like that you've done them wrong, you've given them faulty advice, you were negligent in the actions that you had. You provided inadequate work. So that's what an E&O policy will do.
Well, I think about this. Real estate professionals, when they go to work for a broker, usually I would think they ask that broker, hey, do you have E&O insurance? And many times they do, but there's more to it than asking. Doesn't the real estate professional need to know more on the specifics of, say, an E&O policy?
Well, I think the broker really does need to have a feel for what they're looking for. There are a couple of things that they need to take a look at when they're deciding about a policy and which one to go with. Some basic things to take a look at would be what the limit is or the aggregate. So how much coverage do I have? So a limit's going to tell you the amount of insurance, the amount of coverage the insurance company will pay per incident. And then the aggregate or the total is how much will be paid for totally throughout the life of the policy. So you might see a million. So $1 million for each incident, up to $1 million for each incident, and up to $1 million total for the life of that policy. So that's one thing that you need to take a look at. You're going to see the deductible. The deductible is the amount that you have to pay prior to the insurance coverage coming into play. So if your deductible is $2,500, you're going to pay the first $2,500 or whatever the cause might be, and then if covered, the insurance company would step in. So deductible is another thing to take a look at.
So many things to think about. The other thing I'm thinking, if I'm the real estate broker and I'm picturing Houston, Texas, or quite frankly, you can help anyone in any United States city as they listen to the show after the broadcast on the internet. But as a real estate broker, wherever I am, I'm thinking, well, I might have 10 agents, or I might have, there's one we talked to last week had 900 agents. So they really need to be aware of all the categories of the policies and making sure that they're able to protect the real estate professionals that are part of their team.
That's an excellent point. And when we go through these basics, the elements of the policies that we're talking about are going to be consistent throughout. What the difference that you mentioned will make is the insurance companies are going to take a look at how many employees do you have? What is your revenue? Are you solely a real estate broker? Do you do other things within that real estate world? Do you do more than just residential? Do you do commercial real estate? Are you offering property management? All those will go into the effect of what your limits are, what your deductibles are, and also your premium. And that's what you're going to pay annually for that coverage.
I wonder if past claims would also be a part of the mix.
Absolutely. If you've
like
got
a car insurance, if I've had 10 accidents in the last month, that would be terrible. I wouldn't drive anymore. But anyway, it's the same idea, right?
Absolutely. So if you do have past claims, that's going to have an effect on the type of coverage that you can have. You also want to take a look at some specific elements as you're evaluating your plan. You want to take a look at the insuring agreement. So that's going to tell you what's covered. So that's important to know. You need to take a look at the exclusions. That's going to tell you the list of properties, perils, and persons or situations that are not covered under the plan. So those both are really critical. What's covered with the insuring agreement, what's not covered with the exclusion. So those are the first two things that you ought to really look at with your policy. Then take a look at the endorsements. Those are the documents that talk about things that are either added to or taken away from a policy. So take a look at the endorsements. Then you also want to take a look at, are there any sublimits? So a sublimit is a liability or a limit of coverage that's less than the $1 million. So let's say we talked earlier about a $1 million policy. You might have a sublimit for, let's say, discrimination that would be $250,000. So you're not going to get the full coverage for discrimination costs or defense. You're only going to get the up to $250,000. So that's an important thing to look for.
Like anything, when we start looking at paperwork and the details of an insurance policy or even the details in a real estate transaction, we can simplify it for people. If they're wondering, all they have to do is reach out to you. You have people right there they can talk to, and you can go over those things and make it simpler for them. All they have to do is give you a call, right?
Absolutely. So we're going to spend the time to find out what's important to our real estate broker partners, and based upon those discussions, then we can provide some counsel on policies and coverage that might make sense for them. They may feel like that, they're just starting off, so a lower limit might be important, but they can handle a higher deductible. Or they may say, I want a higher limit, but I want a lower deductible. So the insurance company would step in sooner, and we can work with our partners to find the appropriate plan.
You are tailoring the plan for that broker.
Absolutely. We're tailoring the plan for that broker. That's correct.
It's that simple. All they have to do is call you at
866-798-2827, 866-798-2827.
You know, it's one of my favorite numbers. One more time.
866-798-2827, Stewart Insurance at Stewart.com.
So we can officially say the series has begun. Edition 1, E&O. Can't wait to find out what's next week. Don't tell me.
No. You got to tune in next week to know.
There you go, everybody. Stay with us, please. Thank you, John Bramblett with Stewart Insurance, and that's stewartinsurance.com. We're coming right back. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. I'm almost ready to sing some kind of Western song, but we know this. Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance, with a focus on real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers. Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. And yes, continuing his series that began last week, John Bramblett is here. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. Nice to be here.
We are continuing the series.
Yes, we are.
With our second edition, and what would we call that?
Second edition will be cyber liability. We'll talk about cyber liability insurance.
So relevant. Let's go. So last week it was E&O, now cyber liability. Here we go.
So last week was E&O. So a good way to remember E&O is think about it in terms of a medical malpractice for a business owner, real estate broker. So it provides professional liability coverage that protects the insured against liability from committing an error or omissions in the presence of professional duties. So that's what E&O does. Today we're going to talk a little bit about cyber liability. And cyber liability covers the costs associated with the breach of data you store or have access to. So the key on the cyber liability coverage is, in the real estate world, Bill, as you well know, our broker friends have access to tons of commercial and personal information from their clients. And it's important that that information is protected if they are hacked or their systems are breached. So a cyber criminal breaches their email and gets into their system, or breaches their website and gets into the system. This insurance provides some coverage for the costs associated with that breach of data that you store or have access to.
That is unbelievable. And we hear it all the time, all the publications, TV shows, all these things. The data is such a gold mine for these would-be bad actors that are out there. That's what they look for. And many times the compromise happens by stalking emails. And the email is many times, not their only, but one of the doorways into our information.
Absolutely. The email is a critical doorway into that information. And the thing that there are a couple things that are really scary about this. One is IBM has told us in a recent study that they did that it takes about 197 days just to know that you've been breached. 197 days, so over 6 months to know that you've been breached, and then another 69 days to contain the breach. So if you haven't done anything to mitigate yourself or protect yourself. And if you don't have the coverage, if something like this happens, then there can be some dire consequences. The other thing that we've come across that is really scary, and that the friends at the FBI and their Internet Crime Group has told us, is that in 2018, there were 11,300 U.S. victims of real estate wire fraud reported. The combined loss was $149 million. Cyber Ventures projects the damages related to cybercrime will jump to $6 trillion annually in 2021. So that's next year. So all cybercrime next year damages should reach somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 trillion next year. So you can see the importance of having that protection.
There's no doubt about it. And they can reach out to you, Stewart Insurance, John Bramblett, or anyone on the team to find out what it costs and some of the plans that you will tailor for them to help reduce this risk. Absolutely.
We're a full-service insurance brokerage. We do have quite a bit of experience working on the cyber coverage. A couple things to keep in mind, whether you're speaking with us or another insurance advisor, would be make sure that the coverage has some form of forensics investigation. So to determine where the cause took place and what was the effect of the cause. So to determine, was it your fault? Was it your firm's fault? So that's important. Litigation expenses associated with the breach, that's important to have. Crisis management expenses. Do you need PR coverage? Do you need to have coverage to help you notify companies and individuals that you were breached? Do you need to provide credit monitoring for some of your customers because of a breach? That's where the crisis management expenses could come into play. And then business interruption expenses. Has this caused you some business interruption? And the policy sometimes will then allow coverage for some of that loss of income.
And as you're describing this, John, it dawns on me that real estate brokers out there listening, not just here in Houston, Texas, but you're serving people all over the United States. They may not even know at this point what questions to ask, but when they call you, you'll help them right through it.
Absolutely. We take the time to make sure that our clients are properly insured. So we will ask the questions to determine what makes sense for them. And what's the best coverage that they could have from a cyber perspective and any other business insurance needs that they may have.
Because it would seem to me, decade after decade, certainly it's the real estate broker is no stranger to E&O insurance. However, this last decade, maybe more specifically these last 5 years, the cyber policies have entered the picture in a more prominent way.
It really has. And the other thing to keep in mind from a cyber perspective is the real estate industry is targeted. Because if you think about it, on the broker side, our real estate broker partners handle tons and tons of both commercial and personal information. On the title side, then you start looking at the funds aspect. So you combine those two, the data that comes that both entities have, plus the funds that a title and attorney agents would have, you can see why the cyber criminals are targeting our industry.
Unbelievable. And, John, if someone wants to reach out to you?
They can call me at 866-798-2827. That's 866-798-2827. Or reach me at Stewart Insurance at stewart.com.
If they're east of the Mississippi?
866-798-2827. And if they're west of the Mississippi, 866-798-2827. And if they're leaving the rodeo, 866-798-2827.
It's that simple. Thank you so much, John Bramblett. And now she is back. Yes, you hear the special music because Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance, with a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers. Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risk facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. And today, continuing his series, is John Bramblett with Stewart Insurance. John, welcome.
Thanks, Bill. Nice to be here.
I love this series. Drum roll, please. What is the topic today?
Well, we first led off with errors and omissions or professional liability. Last week we talked about cyber liability. Today we're going to talk about general liability insurance.
General liability. So let's define that.
Absolutely.
Sounds like it's encompassing.
It is. It helps protect your real estate business from claims saying you might have caused a bodily injury or property damage. Let's say a client visits your office and to talk about a listing and they slip and fall. That could be a potential injury. So that would be part of what a general liability plan would cover. It covers client injuries, client property damage, and related lawsuits. So specifically, we're looking at physical injuries. So again, if I visited a broker's office to talk about a listing and I slipped and fell, could cover that injury. Property loss or damage. So whether it be at your office or in some cases off-site. Let's say you're doing a showing, you have an open house, and in adjusting the client's living room to make it a better showing, you knock over a vase and break it. So you would have some coverage on either replacing that or if they were to sue you. And then the final one is what's called advertising injuries. So libel or slander. So if you were some sort of a defamation, so if you wrote something that people thought was offensive to them or that it might have libeled them, I wouldn't, if you, let's say you wrote something in social media about a competitor and comparing yourself or your firm to a competitor and they felt like that it was libelous, you could be sued there. So you get a coverage from that defense. Or if somebody heard you speak poorly of a competitor, that could be a potential situation. Let's say you have a logo for your firm that looks similar to a competitor or another logo. They could sue you for that. Or that's a great photograph of that house. I'm going to use that photograph of that house, but you don't have the rights to that photograph. That could be an issue. So that's where all general liability comes into play.
It seems like in business, landmines await almost at every turn. And I want to mention as well, as people hear this show, you're helping people, not just here in Houston, Texas, but all over the country with your insurance plans.
That's exactly right. I have clients here in Houston. I have a client that I'm working with in Florida. I have a client that I'm working with in Missouri. My client I'm working with in Massachusetts right now.
And not to get off track, but we're talking about realtors, real estate brokers. But if someone has another type of business, do you help them as well? Or is it, we know you're specifically interested in real estate, but can you help another type of small business, let's say?
Primarily real estate driven. But what we can do is look for some additional plans or policies that might not be traditional for what we do, depending upon what a broker needs. So I have a broker right now that also is investing in some apartment properties. So we're working with them to see about providing them some general liability coverage that would be a little different than what you would see for your office. Also working with them on some professional liability for that might be a little different. We have some clients that have moved beyond just being a real estate broker and are offering property management services. So again, the coverage would be a little different and how we would quote it would be a little different. But our focus is going to be with our real estate professional partners.
That sounds great. What are some of the other things people need to know about this general liability?
Well, again, I think it's the key is there's really kind of three areas. That physical injuries that we talked about. So there could be medical bills that you would need to help cover, attorney fees. Maybe there was a settlement that came about, so the insurance would help you with that. Again, a couple things to keep in mind on the physical injuries. It's on your property. It's not somebody else's property. It's on your property, and it's for non-employees. So if an employee was hurt at your office, that would be covered by your workers' compensation insurance. We talked about client's property or property loss or damage. So it would be the cost of repair or replacement, both your office, and sometimes offsite as well. So that's a good thing to ask when you're working with your insurance advisor is, does my general liability property also work offsite? Because that's important to know. And then the other one that, again, is people don't always think about is that idea of advertising injuries. So do you use advertising or social media for your business purposes? That's something that you need to keep in mind, and as we all do these days. The examples we talked about, if the logo looks similar, or if there's some sort of defamation, so you've written something about me that I find offensive or I think might be offensive, that's libel. If you said something about me, that would be slander. And then just copyright brand infringements. Hey, I want to use that photograph, and it's not a photograph that you have the rights to.
And when you mentioned earlier on Facebook, too, that stuff stays around.
Yes, it doesn't go away.
So you have to be very careful whatever is written.
Absolutely, you really do.
John, before we close the segment, let's tell people how they can reach you.
They can call us at 866-798-2827. That's 866-798-2827. Shoot us an email at stewartinsurance@stewart.com, or visit us at stewartinsurance.com.
And that number works both east and west of the Mississippi. Is that correct?
That is correct. Before, during, and after the rodeo.
How about that? Once again, the number is
866-798-2827.
And not only that, check out some of the other. You have regular insurance, flood insurance, all the basics that we need
Absolutely.
in life and in real estate.
Absolutely. If you're a home buyer, home seller, a broker, a title attorney agent, we can help you out.
I have my home insurance with Stewart Insurance.
Fantastic. We love that, Bill.
The show will continue. That's right. Thank you, John, for your series. Can't wait to see what happens next week. We're coming right back with even more. It is the time of the show to tell you that Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risk facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risk. And yes, today, once again, he's here, John Bramblett from Stewart Insurance. John, welcome.
Howdy, Bill. Nice to see you.
Here we are, and I'm going to guess you're going to continue the series, your insurance series. So
yes, we are. So we've previous shows we've talked about professional liability or errors and omissions. We've talked about cyber liability. We talked about general liability, and today we're going to talk about BOP.
BOP.
BOP, business owner's policy. So a BOP, or business owner's policy, is an umbrella policy that, depending upon some specific circumstances, could save a broker or small business money on their general liability and their commercial property insurance. So it's a combination of those two.
So you're combining the function of those two, and right off the bat, business owners would be interested in this. What type of business owners in terms of size, or what are the parameters?
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about what BOP is, and then we'll take a look at the parameters. So what a business owner's policy does is protect real estate professionals from third-party liabilities and property damage by combining the general liability insurance and the property insurance. So there are three areas that they kind of look at, and we can get into those in detail here in a second. So lawsuits over customer injuries and property damage, advertising injury and property damage, and then damage to business property. But as you said earlier, there are some criteria that we look at for a company to make sure that they're eligible for that. So generally speaking, if you have fewer than 100 employees, you have a small office or workspace, and most brokers, they don't have a huge office space, so small office space or workspace. They make less than $1 million in annual revenue, and for our real estate brokers, they would be looking at the commissionable revenue, not the dollar amount of sales from their home, of the home sales. What they would be looking at would be the gross commissionable revenue. They operate in a low-risk industry, and they need less than 12 months of business interruption insurance. And generally speaking, a broker will meet all that criteria.
Well, that encompasses a lot of businesses, what you've just laid out there.
Absolutely. So it's a nice plan for a small business, and it is potentially a way for them to save some money by having that umbrella policy, combining the two together.
BOP. Let's tell people what that is again. Business
owner's policy, and there are three main areas that coverage, the risk that it can mitigate or offset. So you can have lawsuits over a customer injury or property damage. So let's say you have a customer in your office and they trip and fall, and they're hurt. So you've got some coverage there. Or you're staging a home for an open house and you break a expensive vase. You've got some coverage there. Then we talk about advertising injuries and copyright infringement. So this is the general liability element of the business owner's policy. And this covers a cost of a lawsuit. So let's say you make a claim about a competitor on social media that they find false, or they feel like they would hurt their business. So you could have some coverage there if they sued.
And the key word there, if they feel like maybe you didn't, but they might perceive that you did, thus here comes a lawsuit.
Here comes a lawsuit, and even if you are completely innocent and you haven't done anything wrong, you still have the expense of having the defense costs. So that's why a general liability or in this case a BOP policy, a business owner's policy, makes sense. If they felt like that there was some sort of a copyright infringement, we talked about this in one of the last shows of you found a photograph that you thought would be great in marketing a piece of property, and you don't have the right to use that photograph. There could be a copyright infringement.
You may hear from someone that says, that's my photo out, and we know the social media, Facebook, it reaches the world.
Absolutely. So somebody said, hey, that's my photograph. You didn't have the right to use it, so now I'm going to charge you, and maybe charge you more than what they would have if you'd had permission. So that's part of what the coverage comes into play.
I'm going to add that, just like in property management, if you said, but I didn't know, that's not a defense.
Yeah. Yes, and I remember business law back in the day. Ignorance of the law is not a defense.
Exactly.
And then any kind of written or spoken defamation would be the coverage here. So that's where that advertising injury or copyright infringement. The last area is a damage to business property. So it would cover and protect your office, your furnishings, any of the equipment that you have that could come from theft or loss. So if you had a fire or if you had wind damage, somebody came in and stole, they came in, vandalized your office, so that would cover that cost and replacement of that equipment. So those are kind of the three buckets that a business owner's policy would provide, offsetting the risk.
Are there businesses out there that don't have it?
Sure. I mean, there are, depending upon where you live in the country, there are some brokers that don't have any insurance, and they decide to self-insure. You've had our CEO, President Tom Carpentier, on the show as a guest many times, and Tom explains insurance, pretty simple terms. Your decision of how much risk you want to place on the insurance company versus how much risk you want to take on yourself. So there are brokers that I've had conversations with that have decided, for whatever reason, that they don't want to have any coverage, that they can handle whatever risk they might run into. And take a look at where do you think the greatest opportunity to be vulnerable is. So if you're starting off as a real estate broker and either you don't have an office or you're working from home, or you have a small office where you don't entertain clients, you might not need business owner's policy. You might not need to protect commercial if the equipment that you have in place is a printer and a video screen. You could probably replace those yourself.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Where you would still need some coverage, though, would be on the cyber side, with people, with the risk of those cyber criminals infiltrating your email or the email of folks that you're working with to cause the theft of data or funds. Or you would need the professional liability, the errors and omissions, the malpractice, if you will, insurance. So if someone feels that your professional services have done them wrong, you've got defense coverage for there. Again, it goes back to, if that were to happen, could I offset that cost myself? And if I can't, is it a better investment for me to have an annual premium that I pay with the insurance company than offsetting any of the cost outside of the deductible?
And I want to take this time, as people do reach out to you to tailor their insurance plans, whatever they may need, to ask the right questions for you, to ask the questions that they don't know to ask, that as people hear this, certainly right here on AM 950 KPRC in the fourth largest city, Houston, Texas, many people hear us after the fact all over the United States. And if there's a broker in New York City, Washington State, anywhere else, you're there to help them as well.
Absolutely. I'm working with, I just helped a small brokerage firm in Missouri on their errors and omissions. And I'm working with a real estate professional in Florida on a cyber liability policy right now. So, yes, we can work with our broker partners from around the country. They can reach us, 866-798-2827. They can send us an email at stewartinsurance@stewart.com, or they can learn more at stewartinsurance.com. So we can, we're here to help our real estate broker partners. We're here to help the title and attorney agents. And then we're here to help the homeowners. So with their home insurance, their flood insurance, their auto insurance, wind insurance, motorcycle, SUV, we're here to help.
Watercraft. Sounds like you said 866-798-2827.
I believe I did, Bill. I think it was 866-798-2827.
It sure is. You have a fantastic team at Stewart Insurance, Tom Carpentier, and so many others there helping people, doing tremendous work every day. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. Real Estate Matters for Stewart Title. Yes, another edition. Thank you for listening. Bill Napick, I am your host. Stay safe out there. Thank you again. Go to Stewart.com if you want to hear this show again and again, or any of the other 315 shows. Stewart.com for now. It is time to tell you once again, Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. Yes, they invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. And today, here he is once again, John Bramblett. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Nice to be here.
Here we are. As we wind up the show, you have important information once again for us, as I'm thinking you're continuing the series, or you have something to add.
No, we're continuing the series, Bill.
There we go. And what is it today?
So today we're going to talk about workers' compensation insurance. So workers' compensation covers medical costs and lost wages for most work-related injuries, whether you're at the office or on site. So you could be at an on-site property, an employee, susceptible to injury, so they're moving a heavy piece of furniture and they get hurt, or they trip on some uneven steps and they get hurt. So workers' comp provides coverage in three basic areas: employee medical expenses, employee injury lawsuits, and compliance with state laws.
That's a very important component to any business to have that in place, right?
It is. Some states require workers' comp insurance. Texas doesn't. There are a handful of businesses that Texas requires workers' compensation insurance. Real estate brokers are not one of them, but it's still a coverage that's relatively inexpensive and coverage that's really worthwhile to have and worth considering.
Well, what's interesting, John, as I sit in this seat, we all learn every time, but this is the first that I've heard of it. I know you offer a wide range of insurances, but you're helping people with this in addition to all the other things.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the host is getting smarter, just a little bit.
Well, that's hard to believe that our host could get any smarter than he already is, but I appreciate that. I mean, so, it'll look at things like employees' medical expenses. So medical bills, for like emergency room costs or ongoing case. So if you've got physical rehabilitation that has to happen. If you've missed wages during the recovery, there's some potential assistance there. And then there's some death benefits if it's been a fatal accident.
Wow. What are some of the other things we should know about it?
Well, it could help cover attorney's fees. It could help cover some court-mandated judgments. It could help cover with some settlements and potentially some witness fees.
And I want to remind people, as I did last week, and that is, as they hear us here in Houston, sure, they know you're there to serve Stewart Insurance. However, they hear it after the broadcast or on the podcast. You're helping people all over the United States.
Absolutely. We can help our real estate broker partners all over the U.S., as well as our home buyers and home sellers all over the U.S.
That is super awesome. Let's remind people the other parts of your series just so they can go back to the previous shows and see where we're at here.
Absolutely. So we've talked about errors and omissions, so professional liability, so covers any situation where your professional services might be deemed to have caused an issue. Cyber liability, which helps with defense costs if you are hacked and there's a cyber criminal that's caused a theft of funds or data that you might be deemed responsible for. We looked at general liability insurance, the combination of general liability and commercial property, so a business owner's insurance policy, and then today looked at workers' compensation.
What a fascinating series.
It's been a lot of fun.
I wonder what's going to happen next week.
We won't know until next week, Bill.
That is correct. So before we close this segment, John, what else would you like people to know?
We would love them to be able to reach out to us and talk any way they would like, whether it be their homeowner's insurance, professional liability, cyber, workers' comp, general liability. We're here to help. They can reach us at 866-798-2827, 866-798-2827. Reach us at Stewart Insurance at stewart.com or stewartinsurance.com.
And that's east and west of the Mississippi. The number is
866-798-2827.
But also, again, workers' compensation, cyber liability, the forgotten umbrella policy sometimes.
Absolutely.
That is so important. But you're there to help with all the range of insurance needs that anyone might have in a magnificent way.
Absolutely. So if you're in and around the real estate business, Stewart Insurance is the partner that you need to reach out to.
That is super awesome. And it's stewartinsurance.com.
stewartinsurance.com or stewartinsurance at stewart.com.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. John Bramblett with Stewart Insurance. And, of course, we want to thank Tom Carpentier once again. We haven't seen Tom here lately, but he almost was going to be here today. He said, but we'll probably see him in the following weeks doing super work there, leading the charge at Stewart Insurance. That is Tom Carpentier. And as we wind up the show, no, don't be sad that the show is ending at the time of broadcast, because you can always go to stewart.com/Houston. That's stewart.com/Houston to hear any and all the shows. I think this is show 317. That's right, 317 shows with super content on each and every one of them. It is that time of the show to tell you that Real Estate Matters would not be possible without our partner, and he's here today, Stewart Insurance, with a focus in real estate and a very special focus on real estate brokers. Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today, and they invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. He is here, John Bramblett with Stewart Insurance.
Captain, how are you this morning?
Here we are once again. So one of the things people look forward to your appearance all the time for so many reasons, and especially now because I'm hearing that you're going to cap off your series on insurance this very moment.
We are. We're going to do a bit of a review to see what we've covered so far to date. And if you recall our great listeners last week, we talked a little bit about workers' compensation insurance, and I wanted to continue that conversation specifically about Texas. So if we can kind of finish that up, and then we can do an overview of what we've covered over the last several weeks.
That sounds great. In fact, there's so many things that we think about. There's a lot of reflective time going on. We're looking at our portfolios, our money, and looking at our risk and our insurance profile, if you will, and the need to be properly insured. It's super timing.
Absolutely. So I have a lot of the real estate broker clients that we have gone virtual, and their staff is working from home, or they're out with clients, or their closings. Ted talked about the virtual closings and the drive-up closings that Stewart Title has been providing. So it is a good time, if it slows down for a broker, to take a look at your insurance plans and policies. Are they meeting the needs that you have as a business person? If they're not, or if you're not sure, then reach out to your insurance advisor and have that conversation to make sure that they are meeting those needs that you have. And if you have at minimum, know what your expiration dates are. So that way, we would recommend that we start having those conversations maybe 60 days out, 45 days out. That way we can make sure that we can get adequate quotes in. We can look at different options for you and make sure that everything is set up so we don't miss a beat.
Well, that is super awesome. And I think the idea, I've never thought about it before as far as an insurance profile, but whether you're an individual, a real estate broker, or anyone else, you need to plan and know about risk and to make sure you're covered as best as you can.
Absolutely. So, if you're a homeowner, you need to have an idea of what kind of coverage your home insurance provides. Does it help for rising water? Do you have coverage there? And if so, how? What is your flood? Do you have flood insurance? And if so, is your flood insurance adequate based upon where you live? That's another conversation to have with your real estate, with your insurance advisor. On the the business side, the same thing. Do I have errors and omissions? Have I added cyber to my portfolio? how has my company changed? Have I added employees? Have I lost employees? Is my commissionable revenue increased? Am I doing a more or additional types of business? Maybe I've added property management to my portfolio. All of those changes, all of those areas are worth taking a look at and could affect your overall insurance portfolio.
And that's right. We talk about homeowners all the time, business owners, but there are people that are out there renting properties also. They have a different set of circumstances. Thus, their insurance profile should be fit for them.
Absolutely. So you may have set your renter's insurance based on a couch that you inherited from your parents and a smaller television. And now you've upgraded and you've got a 60-inch television and you've got all the gaming software and you have a iPad and you have an iPhone and you have a computer and you have a laptop. You've upgraded your bedroom furniture. So the amount that you have coverage for may not meet what you have as a possession. So that's another good reason to have that conversation with your insurance advisor, and they can help you determine what would be a fair rate or fair amount of coverage based upon what possessions you have.
And as far as the real estate broker as well, in normal circumstances, without these extraordinary circumstances, their business, their personnel expands and contracts anyway. So during this event, there may be some changes in personnel, the way they're handling their business, whether they're making their office smaller in terms of physicality. So those things are all different needs as well that are always moving.
They are. The critical aspect still goes back to how much risk are you willing to take on yourself, and how much risk would you like to have the insurance company take on? So, as Ted mentioned earlier, while this is going to be ugly, it's not going to be there forever, and we still need to protect our businesses. We still need to offset risk, and that's where working with your insurance advisor can help you out.
That's right. As people are addressing this event right now, either the business owner or the person that is at home a lot more now, it's giving them more time to think, contemplate, and plan ahead. And that's right.
But let's, if we could, today, Bill, let's go back and kind of recap that our classes or our series of discussions that we've had on the different types of insurance for conversation. Last week we talked a little bit about workers' compensation insurance, and I wanted to cover a little bit specific to Texas. As a reminder, it covers the medical costs and lost wages for most work-related injuries. Whether you're at your office or on site of a property, employees are susceptible to workplace injuries. Moving heavy equipment or tripping on an uneven step. Workers' compensation provides three kind of primary coverages we can look at: employee medical expenses, employee injury lawsuits, and compliance with state laws. And each state is a little different, as you can imagine, as we've talked about in the past. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, since the majority of our listeners are in the state of Texas, wanted to share with them a little bit about how the Texas laws can affect this. From a medical benefits perspective, it's all reasonable and necessary medical care for treatment of the work-related injury or illness. In order to receive these benefits, the treatment must be provided by a provider, a doctor, on the state-approved physicians list. So the main thing is if you have an injury at work, and or if you're counseling an employee that's been hurt at work, make sure that the physician they go to is on the state list, and your insurance advisor can help you with that, or just ask the doctor. You can also go to the Texas State Workers' Compensation page, and they can help you out with that information as well. You could, if you have a serious illness or injury, an employee could be eligible for a lifetime medical benefits. You can't. There are certain things that the insurance companies can't settle, and again, you can work through that with your insurance advisor. When we look at income benefits, it's generally temporary income benefit. There's an impairment income benefit, a supplemental income benefit if you need some additional income, and then a lifetime income benefit if it's been approved by a physician. So those are important to know as you guide your employee if somebody does get hurt on the job. And then in Texas, there are some death benefits. So if an employee is covered by workers' compensation in the state of Texas, if they die as a result of a work-related accident or illness, the survivors are entitled to a couple of things. It could be, coverage on burials. It could be a percent of their wages, things like that.
Well, let's review we have about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. Let's review for everyone the other components of your series, and they can go back Stewart.com/Houston if they want to hear a past show.
Absolutely. Stewart.com/Houston. We can hear all the previous shows. Over 300, if I'm not mistaken, Bill.
I think 318, 319. I'm losing track.
Well, it's hard for us to count that high.
That's right.
The others that we talked about beyond workers' compensation were errors and omissions, which is professional liability coverage that protects the insured against liability from committing an error or an omission in the performance of professional duties. In a sense, it's a medical malpractice for the business professional. There's a cyber liability for our real estate partners. It covers the costs associated with the breach of data you store or have access to, and that's critical. There's general liability, which helps protect your real estate business from claims saying you caused bodily injury or property damage. This also includes injuries that could relate to copyright issues, slander, or libel. And then the last one that we visited was the business owner's policy, which protects real estate professionals from third-party liabilities, which are lawsuits, and property damage by combining a general liability and commercial property insurance.
And, of course, I'll say it again this show, and that if you're listening outside of Houston after the time of broadcast, certainly Stewart Insurance is there to help you as well, not just here in Houston or in Texas. And, John, I know someone wants to reach out to you right now to find out how they can have a tailored insurance plan, whether they're a real estate broker or an individual. What should they do?
They can give us a call at 866-798-2827. They can visit stewartinsurance.com or email us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com.
And that number again is?
866-798-2827.
Oh, one of my favorite numbers right there, 866-798-2827. 2827, stewartinsurance.com. And yes, do not be sad that the show is ending at the time of broadcast, because it never really ends, because you can always go to stewart.com/Houston. That's right, stewart.com/Houston to hear any and all the shows. And until next week, thank you for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Nappick, right here with John Bramblett with Stewart Insurance. We thank our chief economist at Stewart Title, Dr. Ted C. Jones. I'll say it again. Stay close to your Stewart Title Business Development Officer. Find out where you can see Ted on the Zoom presentation and so much more. Stewart.com. We're there to help you. Until next week, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. We'll see you then.
In today's litigious society, it is imperative to have the proper insurance to offset the many risks facing your business, especially if you're a real estate broker. Your errors and omissions and cyber liability insurance can help limit the threat of these risks if you know what to look for. Not sure if your insurance addresses the risks facing your business? Contact Stewart Insurance to be confident your brokerage can withstand these risks. Stewart Insurance, 866-798-2827. StewartInsurance.com. That's StewartInsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.